that the car will start, stop, steer, change gear, those sorts of things.
That's a bit different to normal online auction bidding. Yeah.
Exactly, you don't get that sort of opportunity.
No.
And also we will deal with the transfer of the car, handover of the car and transfer of the V5 at the end of the auction as well. So effectively, if you wanted to, didn't want people coming around to your house, you can bring the car to us and we'll take care of everything for you.
Nice. And you sell what, in all price ranges, do you?
Absolutely. I mean, we do is because of our low fees. Our pricing structure is we would insist that any car below around about sort of £7,000 likely value would be put in auction with no reserve, simply because we can't afford to have cars at that sort of price level that don't sell. But no, I mean, we have many cars no reserve, and in fact, what we're finding is that no reserve auctions usually do achieve the best final sales price. We've had things like our summer. We had a Jaguar E-Type, beautiful grey Jaguar E-Type Series 1 that the seller believed in our system. We had I think no reserve auction. We had an estimate of 70 to 85,000 on the car. So much interest. So absolutely. So many viewings and so much interest on the car. And we did actually achieve 85,000 for it. It was a strong price for a strong car.
Wow, absolutely. And, that's great. So it works.
It does indeed. It does indeed. Yeah.
What other memorable cars have you sold?
Absolutely. I mean, to be honest with you, you never know what's going to come round next. We've had some lovely Ferraris, and we had Detta Massa Pantera. But what we are finding is that the quality of the cars that we attract, because of the level of detail we go to with, because each listing will also, as well as the photography, will have something like a 1,500-word description. We have motoring journalists who do these for us, and they put the descriptions together through looking at the photographs, looking through the history, and also talking to the owner to get some sort of personal background information of their time and their relationship with the car whilst it's been in their ownership. And there are some fascinating stories that do come out. We're actually attending the London Classic Car Show next weekend at Olympia. And we've got a beautiful Ferrari 246 GT, which is going to be on the stand. And it's got a fascinating history. It really has. In fact, the guys who's selling it is indeed. It'll be for sale whilst we're at the auction, with effectively a buy now price on it. And if it doesn't sell whilst we're at the show, then it will be going into auction on the Monday following the show, which will be the 24th of February.
Lovely. That's fun to watch.
It is. It's a stunning car, beautiful car, and it's got a wonderful history. So the guy who's selling it, this is the second time he's owned the car. He loved it so much he bought it back a few years after previously owning it. But that's certainly a very exciting car for us. And we have another beautiful Series 1 E-Type six-head coupe, which is also going to be going into auction on that 24th as well. And again, that's going through with no reserves. So we've got a 75 to 90 estimate on that car. And it really is it's a stunning example.
Exciting. Well, how can listeners find you to find out more?
Well, we have our website, which is themarket.co.uk. You don't have to register with us to view the cars that we have in auction. But if you do wish to bid, as I say, there is bidder verification. All the cars that we have auctioned over the last sort of 3.5 years are available to view on there as well. We don't take anything from the website. We like to try and be as transparent as possible, so anybody can look through and see what cars we've sold and what prices and the photographs, the descriptions and everything else. And also how the bidding has gone on each of those auctions. So that's all there available to view. And also we have absolutely. And we also have an app which is very user-friendly and is both for iOS and Android as well.
Excellent. So they can get you on their app store or find you at themarket.co.uk, you said?
Indeed, absolutely, very much so. The one thing I will mention is we have all of our galleries are that are in our listings are actually the platform that they're held on is called Get Patina, which was sort of how the market came about. It's basically an online digital platform where you can keep records of your classic car, all the photographs, history, and everything else on there. So should the worst happen and you have a flood or you have a fire, you've got a permanent record online, which is effectively how the market started.
Oh, interesting. I see. Andy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolute
and for telling us all about it. Good luck with how it's going.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Richard. All the best. Bye-bye.
Goodyear wraps safety around those you care for most. Goodyear wraps these 3 safety factors around them. 3T cord, Tufsin rubber, wraparound tread, all exclusive to Goodyear. Wrap safety around those you care for most. To get complete confidence, make sure you get Goodyear G8. Invest in Goodyear G8. None safer.
Welcome back.
Time now, Rich, for our classic shootout feature. And this week we're looking at a couple of British executive saloons, both of which launched in 1963. I'm talking about the Triumph 2000 and its obvious rival, the Rover 2000.
Yeah. Well, of course, these were very important announcements at the time. They brought, it was a sporting style to the British executive saloon market.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. In fact, the Rover 2000 and the Triumph 2000, they were launched within a week of each other in 1963.
Trust you to know that. Dear. You know what, dear listener? There is a rumour that Paul doesn't actually drive. He just spends his time memorising car brochures. Anyway.
I do drive, just very badly.
Anyway, so they were launched within a week of one another.
They were, and each one, it marked a major change of direction for its maker. More importantly, though, both cars meant an expansion of this new class of British car, designed to appeal to the executive, who was looking for a saloon that was smart, that was nimble, relatively compact, and, as you say, Rich, with more than a hint of sportiness about it.
Yeah, I mean, although I was a little boy, I remember, though having those 2 cars launched so close together, well, it inevitably meant that everyone, the press, everyone made comparisons between the 2 of them. And, of course, in the early 60s, Rover and Triumph, well, they had separate owners, of course. They were direct competitors.
Well, yeah. I mean, back in 1963, Standard Triumph, as it was then, that was owned by Leyland Motors, which was the commercial vehicle manufacturer of the time. And Rover, that was still an independent company producing such well-respected models as the P5, that's the wonderful old Rover 3-litre, and, of course, the Land Rover.
Oh, yes. Well, of course, that launch of the Triumph 2000 in 63, that certainly meant, major changes for Standard Triumph. I mean, it effectively replaced the old Standard Vanguard.
That's right, yeah.
And it marked the beginning of the end for the old Standard name. And from then on, future models would all be branded as Triumphs. Hurrah, I love Triumphs. It's a process that had started with the Little Herald in 59.
Yeah.
And that replaced the old Standard 8 and 10 models. So that Triumph 2000 of 63, that meant the end of the road for those big standards.
Absolutely. And of course, the Rover 2000, which was codenamed the P6, that was just as important a new model. And dare I say, it's, I think, a little bit more innovative than the Triumph, particularly when it came to its body design.
Well, maybe. But, the Triumph 2000, of course, the later 2500, the 2.5 models, they'll always be very special to me. My family had a Triumph dealership when I was a young lad.
Really?
We had a couple of sites, yeah.
That must have been really exciting as a boy.
Oh, it was absolutely wonderful.
It
meant weekends when I was allowed to visit, I was surrounded by all the latest models in the 60s and the 70s. And, of course, the 2000, that was a big announcement for Triumph. I thought it was a terrific-looking car, and I still do.
Yeah, it's a handsome thing, I'll admit. Although I think it was always at its best in Mark II form, to be honest, Rich, once it had been given that major facelift in 1969.
Well, I'm a lover of the Mark I, but I do agree the Mark II range, that was stunning looking.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the Italian stylist Michelotti. He came up with the new look, and it was a touch of genius, because they took the latest models, they used the same centre section as the original 2000, but put a new style front and rear ends. Well, that could have ended in tears, but in fact, it worked. It brought a much sleeker look, and I thought the front, that was a particular success. And it had more than a hint of the forthcoming Stag in its appearance.
Yeah, of course it did. And of course the changes continued inside, didn't they, with the Mark II Triumph range. I mean, it was treated to a redesigned dashboard, better ergonomics, more modern appearance, and loads of wood veneer, of course.
Yeah, customers went mad for that car. I mean, it was so well finished.
It was.
It really stood out, that's for sure. And of course, it had one other major advantage over the Rover 2000 at the time.
Okay, pray tell.
Well, it was that the Triumph came with a straight 6 engine instead of the old 4-pot, and I reckon that was a major selling point. I mean, even the base model Triumph 2000, that sounded glorious, and it offered pretty decent performance.
Absolutely, they did sound great, that's true. And like you, Rich, I've got quite a few childhood memories of the 6-cylinder Triumphs. I mean, when I was a kid, my dad had a 2.5 PI, which is, of course, the fuel-injected model.
Oh, now you're talking.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big thing back then, wasn't it? Fuel injection instead of carburettors in a family saloon. That was still pretty unusual.
Oh, yeah, your dad certainly had style. I mean, where did that go wrong for you?
It skipped a generation.
Oh, yeah, that PI, that was an impressive car. Well, it was an impressive car when it was running, of course.
Yeah, I seem to remember my father spending almost as much time under the bonnet as behind the wheel. But, of course, to a car-mad 10-year-old, things like that don't really matter, do they?
No, that's true. It's easy to see only the good in something at that age. So you haven't actually owned a 2000 or a 2.5 yourself?
No, not personally. I mean, I've driven plenty.
Of course, yeah.
But I have had a couple of Rover P6s, including the lowliest model in the range, the single carburettor 2000. But again, when I was young, my father had a 2000 TC with the twin carbs, of course.
Yeah, well, classy car. How was that?
Lovely, but bit of a peak to set up properly, if I remember rightly.
Was it?
Again, it was a car he seemed to spend quite a bit of time tinkering with.
There's a bit of a theme developing here, Paul.
Isn't there? But I'm still a big fan of the P6 Rover. It's a range that's helped to transform Rover's image throughout the 60s. Up until then, the company had been known for its big, almost stately saloons.
Yeah, they were.
And then suddenly along came the Rover 2000, a more compact saloon that was, by Rover standards, it was positively sleek.
Oh, it was huge news. I remember seeing one. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And it went on to be a major success, of course.
Absolutely. And let's not forget as well, the Rover was pretty innovative in its design. If you remember, its body shell was made up of a strong, sturdy base unit, if you like, a kind of inner skeleton, from which were hung no fewer than 19 bolt-on, easily removable panels.
Oh, you know exactly how many panels it had.
Doesn't everyone?
What do you like?
These things are important, come on.
Well, if you say so.
But mechanically, too, the Rover was pretty fresh, I reckon. It used a brand new 4-cylinder overhead cam engine of 1978cc. And the engine was all new, of course, with a Dadeon system at the rear with fixed-length drive shafts, similar to the early Rover T3 gas turbine, that experimental car that was so famous.
Oh, goodness me. Yeah. Yeah, you know, for a company that was really best known for its very traditional upmarket saloons, Rover had some pretty revolutionary ideas, really, didn't they, in the 60s?
Yeah, they did. And, of course, the 2000, it went on to be a big success, helped, of course, by various updates over the years. The 2000 TC, that arrived in the autumn of 1966, and it featured twin SU carburettors and an increase in power from 90 to, I think, around 110 horsepower. And then the start of the 70s saw the Series 2 models announced, complete with modified trim, sportier grille, and a more racy-looking instrumentation.
I wasn't a big fan of that update, I must admit. I loved the style of the original Rover 2000, but they're trying to give it more of a 70s look. It didn't work for me. I mean, admittedly, my father and I, we did buy a pair of P6Bs. And,
really?
Oh, that Formica dash! And the black grille. Oh,
I guess it was the right kind of update for the time, Rich.
I guess so, maybe. But anyway, I seem to remember the Triumph. It was better value than the Rover. Is that right?
Well, kind of. By 1972, the